It was hard to be angry with the Zerithians, but every person has their limits. I was now beyond mine to the point of breaking. As a race, the Zerithians are kind and helpful to a fault. They will give you the shirt off their back, and then offer you their pants and underwear to go along with it. They are truly kind and generous, and only want to do whatever they can to assist other sapient beings with having a happier life. Early in their days of spacefaring, the Zargon Empire discovered them, and moved in with a fleet bent on conquering this budding race and stealing all the resources from their system. They were met by a Zerillian diplomatic delegation, which quickly negotiated work parties to not just strip the entire system for the Zargons, but to willingly go into unexplored and dangerous uninhabited systems to mine resources there as well. After all, these new neighbours needed help, and the Zerithians lived to make everyone's day a little brighter. Needless to say, this helped feed the great Zargon war machine, and took them from a 2-bit wannabe aggressor to a menace that conquered half the galaxy. For centuries, the Zerithians fully supported their power-mad overlords, responding at every turn with a catchphrase of, "Oh, let me help you with that." After nearly a millennia, the Zargon Empire collapsed. In a nutshell, they had forgotten how to do things themselves, as the kindly Zerithians stepped up to help the Zargons with anything and everything they desired. In the end, they retired to a luxury planet where they now concentrate their efforts on ritualized combat. All fully supported by the Zerithians, who remain all too happy to serve their fellow sapiens. My situation here was a good example of what it's like to work with them on a more individual level. My story with them started after I was fired from my previous job. I told the Sergathian captain at the Nurbik mining platform he couldn't add a 10th mining laser to a system designed for 6, especially since we were already experiencing constant blown breakers and melted conduits. He bought the upgraded power plant that could handle 10 mining lasers, so I would connect a 10th mining laser and make it work, or else he'd fire me and destroy my reputation so I wouldn't work again in this sector. I did as ordered, but with a stern warning both verbally and in writing that the primary power couplings were insufficient to handle the increased power load and would likely fuse. What I didn't expect is the power couplings not only fused, but then created an arc fault, which then blew out the captain's shiny new upgraded power plant. Being the absolute pile of ignorant crap that he was, the Sergathian blamed everything on me, and did his best to ensure I couldn't even get work as a biowaste cleaning technician. After 3 months of struggling to find any work, a Zerithian freighter came into the station and advertised a position for a mechanic. I took a chance to apply, and they actually gave me an interview. Because, of course, Zerithians will interview every candidate, even if completely unqualified. It's just the polite and respectful thing to do. Luckily, I had the right certifications, and fit the bill nicely. They heard my story and felt I would be the greatest investment of all the candidates, as I not only could do the job, but my story had the most significant opportunity for them to better the life of a fellow sapient. So, I was hired at a rate 25% above standard, and got a ride to a completely new sector for a fresh start. At first, things were quite nice. They offered to serve me meals in my quarters. They would happily take care of my laundry without any complaints, despite the fact that oils excreted by humans can give Zerithians a nasty rash. It almost felt like a luxury cruise with some occasional work tossed in to keep things interesting. Then some problems arose. They started to try to find ways to make my life better. At first it was thoughtful but misguided. My plush toilet paper disappeared into the recycler, only to be replaced by a reusable biosponge that felt like sandpaper when used. This replacement, they argued, would perform the job faster and better while also exfoliating, as if certain parts of the human anatomy need daily exfoliation. Next, they had concerns about my food intake, and wanted to ensure I didn't consume any dangerous or unhealthy chemicals. One night, they decontaminated my coffee, after scanning it and finding multiple chemical traces with no nutritional value. including caffeine and all the major flavor compounds. I discovered this in the morning when I made a cup for myself. Well, I made the coffee after arguing with one of my Zerithian crew members for 15 minutes that, yes, I was happy to do it for myself, and no, I wasn't angry with them, just tired and wanting to perform a pleasurable daily ritual. It was pleasurable, until I took the first sip and got nothing but dirt-flavored water. Now, such things often happen when two species encounter one another for the first time. There will be cultured and biological misunderstandings, and humans and Zerithians had only been aware of each other for a few years, and primarily lived in different sectors of the galaxy. We were only just starting to cross paths, so it was understandable mistakes would happen. But this was the last straw. I didn't care how nice these Zerithians were or how well they paid. I was done and getting off the ship immediately. There are just things you should never do, especially to a mechanic, if you value them at all. We hadn't yet left this sector of space, so my former Sigarthian captain could still make my life a living hell. But dealing with that was preferable to this. In a near rage, I started gathering all my tools and shoved them into the nearest bags and cargo boxes. It didn't matter what went where as long as it was packed. I then went to my quarters and packed up everything I owned. Again, it all went into the closest bag rather than be neatly packed. My packing complete, I stormed down the hallway towards the airlock to enter the station. On the way out, Captain Reeler waved a friendly claw in my direction, in her best attempt to copy the human gesture. "Greetings, human mechanic Bob. How do you fare on this fine time unit called a day?" "I quit!" I yelled out, as I stormed out the airlock, dragging my bags behind me. Captain Reeler was stunned by Bob's actions, and sought out Chief Engineer Spatish to discuss the sudden departure of their newly hired mechanic. Finding the older and wiser being resting in the galley, she approached to inform him of events. "Chief Engineer, I have some upsetting news," she said, with both claws turned down in sadness. "Human mechanic Bob has quit and walked off the ship, and I fear they will not be returning. Have there been any incidents which might have caused him undue stress?" The chief engineer thought for a moment, then shook his claws up and down, in a display of utter confusion. "Honored Captain, I cannot think of anything which would have disturbed human mechanic Bob. Last night I entered his workspace and observed it to be quite disorderly. I spent 2 sparks organizing his tools into the most efficient and logical arrangement possible. I estimate his repair efficiency would have increased measurably with this pleasing new organization, so it should have brought joy. I suspect he received unfortunate news from a family member, or something else outside our control occurred."